Hey everybody, and welcome to part 2. So, what's a good way to piss off your entire fan base? Just go on, pick a reason. I bet you'll come up with something pretty close. Let's say you take an existing character that people are expecting to see and have them just not show up in their own movie. What am I talking about? Friday the 13th Part 5. So despite it being a new beginning, I'll just spoil the trash fire right now and say there's no Jason in this movie. So despite the title being a new beginning, I guess they took that too literally, and yeah, there's no Jason in this movie. And to add insult to injury, they take Tommy Jarvis, a now moody teenager possibly traumatized to madness, and set him up to be the next killer? I sure hope no other franchise does that. It's only from what I've heard. I haven't seen Halloween Ends yet. But on the positive side of that, Tommy does kick some ass in this movie. Not a whole lot, but just enough to go, damn, he's kicking some ass. So I understand why this movie gets the hate it deserves. This is not a very good film by any means. Everything is executed so poorly. But the story of Roy the paramedic could have actually been interesting, but they just didn't do it in a good way. Same thing with handling Tommy Jarvis's character and potentially saying like, look, he's so crazy, now he's the next Jason Voorhees. Like, none of it made sense within the movie's context, and I think that's what's important if you're telling a story, especially when you're like, okay, it's part 5, how invested are people really in it? But obviously they were, because why would they go see it? They keep coming back because they want to see Jason do his thing. Now if you want to add to that story, sure, but to completely remove him, he's not even in the film. If you would have had him in the film, then there could have been more to it. I guess I see what they were trying to do, but seeing a potential and realizing it are two different things. Story of my life. Thankfully though, we got Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. A triumphant return that ends the death curse that was Part 5. Tommy Jarvis returns, thinking once again he must make sure that Jason is dead. Well, he's not. So wackiness ensues. This film is very entertaining, it's actually funny, it doesn't have the annoying, god-awful characters from Part 5, which, the more I think about it, the worse that movie gets. But Part 6 is like the polar opposite. They actually try to add in more story and character growth. I mean, not much, but more than none. It's something instead of nothing. So I actually recommend this one. Check it out. Part 7 sees the return of Jason, yet again, and also confirms that ghosts and psychic powers are real, which is cool. Some of the shots in this film, I have to say, are among the best looking in the whole franchise. Like, I love some of these shots. Jason looks the coolest he's ever looked in this movie. This is my pick for best Jason. And in this film, it's basically Carrie versus Jason. In this case, it's Tina, and they throw everything they got at Jason. And I mean literally, they throw like a couch, some nails, and even fire. But you know what actually stops them this time? Would you believe a ghost dad? No, not that one. And again, like Part 6, I actually highly recommend this one. I think this one might actually be my favorite because I saw it as a kid. You know when they used to have those marathons, it'd be Friday the 13th and they would just play all the movies? Speaking of which, last and certainly not quite the least, but pretty bad, is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And I am so ridiculous that when I was watching said 90s marathon, my dad didn't let me stay up to watch it because he didn't believe that it was a real movie. A title so bold and ridiculous that most people would not believe that it's actually real. This should have been the best of the franchise just based on ridiculousness alone. But instead, we get a relatively dull movie. Because while the idea of being trapped on a boat with Jason should have been a fun, entertaining, suspenseful movie, it really isn't. Julius was cool, and all the stuff in Times Square looks good, but just overall it's just a very bad experience. A whole lot of nothing happening for no reason. And sadly, just like Part 5, this movie had that potential. Like, this should have been so over the top and ridiculous that people would talk about it for years. In a good way. However, Jason would eventually go to hell and fight Freddy Krueger and go to space. Those are all things that happened. So at least there's that. And you never know where Jason's gonna pop up next. So happy Halloween, happy Friday the 13th, and I'll see you next time on 4 Films. But right now, I gotta go think of a skit. Maybe a walk in the nice, relaxing, dark woods in the middle of nowhere will help me think of an idea for a skit. Jason, do you have any ideas for a skit? Well, is there anything else you want to do? These are pretty good. What do you think? That's great.